we jumped on at 9. It's 11, and we're just starting our episode.
And he's in the bag.
No, he's feeling good. He also can't hear us yet.
I know, that's the best part about this.
Yeah.
He's in the green room right now. Let's bring him out.
And he's back.
Hey Dave,
how is the
green room? What were you doing in there?
Ooh, all right, there we go. It's just lovely. We're plugged in. We got battery. Bada bing, bada boom.
Looking fantastic, by the way. Hey everybody, welcome to Another Proof. I'm Ian. I'm here with Daryl and Dave, and we are gonna hang out for a little bit, checking out some whiskey.
I'm Dave, and I am just so happy to be with my friends for yet again another amazing evening.
Daryl the Whiskey Sith, and you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Just search Northern Proof, and you'll find us. So tonight, we're going to be speaking about our top 3 whiskeys in no order at all. And it doesn't mean these are the best whiskeys we drank this year. It just means there's something special behind them, or it brings up a great memory, or we really just did enjoy them. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'd love to hear from you. Punch in some comments as you're watching. What's your top 3 whiskeys for 2020, the year of COVID, the year of the dumpster fire?
And this is an exciting episode for me. I think I have some shocking picks for you guys. We'll see.
I'm stoked to hear that. And Daryl, that's great. Please comment. What was your top 3 of 2020? Like, these are ours, and it's gonna vary greatly based on what we talk about. But in the comments, if you're watching this, please jump in on YouTube. Throw in a comment, throw in a like, throw in a subscribe, and chat with us. We'd love to hear what that is. Maybe broaden our scope a little bit, or maybe you're gonna try some of the stuff we talk about. So it'll be fun.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear what Dave's brought to the table, because up until a few months ago, I didn't realize Dave was that into whiskey. And
up until a few months ago, I don't know that Dave knew that Dave was that into whiskey. And that's what was so exciting about doing this and reflecting back on the year and trying to remember what I had this year. And I'll start with my first one. We'll get into this, okay? I'm gonna get into this. Should I get into one? No. Okay, I'm gonna wait.
Not yet. Dave's just so excited. He's like, so 2020 sucked, and I drank whiskey. But
I built stuff, I broke stuff, and I drank whiskey. It's a great year, guys. What is this dumpster fire you're talking about?
Yeah. We decided to all pour something different. Yes. Now, I personally don't have my top whiskey of the year. I we'll get to that later. I've just poured something that I relate to, and I'm excited to drink and explain while you're doing it. And I believe we all have separate things. So what are we drinking before we get to Dave's first one, because he's so stoked to get there? Okay. Dave, I don't think you can tell us though, can you?
No, I'm not going to tell you. I am drinking what will be, I'm going to call it my number 1 pick of the year. That's what I'm sipping on here, so you can get a little sneak peek of what you think that might be.
Daryl, can you tell us?
Absolutely.
Hold on, can we guess?
Okay.
It's we joked around a little earlier about it being Welch's grape juice, based on the color of that thing. So Dave,
that's a single malt.
It's a Sauvignon Blanc.
It is so light, it has to be something peated from Isla, I would say.
It's not a single malt.
No. Okay.
It's a blend.
So it's Johnny Walker?
It's not Johnny Walker.
Blend.
It's got a wonderful.
I'm cutting all this crap out.
I'm
looking like an idiot.
You're not looking like an idiot. You're not supposed to be able to pick his whiskey by just looking at his glass.
No, so this one came up in one of our blind tastings. There was lots of jokes about how light it looked.
A blend in our blind tastings. I made those blind tastings.
I know. This is why you're going to be shocked. So this is Compass Box Peat Monster.
Well then.
Oh.
It was a blend, and I'm proud I got you into that. That's a solid
Nice.
whiskey. But it is all single malts from Isla, so I win.
It is.
Uh,
We'll give you a quarter point on that one.
Yeah.
And Ian, you got a big pour there. What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking a fun one. This is Old Forester 1920.
Old Forester.
Old Forester. It's a solid, robust bourbon, and after the week I've had, this with a solid pour is going to make it a lot better.
Nice.
115 proof, just delicious, leathery, bold whiskey and
Okay.
bourbon, and I need that right now, so it'll be fun.
But that didn't make your top 3.
It did not make my top 3.
Okay.
No,
you had a big year with whiskey this year, though. Earlier, before everything got locked down and the dumpster fire lit.
Right before, like I
off.
came back barely in time through that border. I was able to go down to Kentucky for a whiskey weekend with the podcast, which we talk about every episode so far. But we went to the Beaumont Inn, which is Dixon Deadman's Inn. Spent a weekend there. We were able to try a whole bunch of incredible stuff, and all 3 of my whiskeys could be from there. They're not because of experience based, but that whole weekend was incredible. I have one from that weekend. It's my top one. It might make me cry actually when we talk about it, but we'll see. Little teaser if it happens. Hopefully the whiskey takes over and I don't get that far. That said, it's been a fun year. It was a fun start to the year, and then it was also a fun year because we did a lot of virtual tastings. Like Dave mentioned earlier, this community and this like little local whiskey hangout that we have going on happened because of COVID, I would think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'll count my blessings, I guess you can say, and take that for a win. But I have some fun stuff. So this did not make my whiskey of the year, but I will take a pour of it anytime.
very good.
I will say I have a special. The last time I had this before I bought this bottle was in Rochester at Dino Barbecue with Dave. Were
now
you
we're
there?
talking.
Did you make it to
No.
Rochester?
I didn't.
So
Dave did not make it at all to Rochester.
Daryl was there. We have a group golf weekend that we go to, or we try and make once a year. I didn't make the last one, but lately it's been in Rochester, and there's this place called Dino Barbecue, and for people that know it well, they'll be stoked for it. It's a pretty cool spot. But they had 1920 there, and I'd never tried it. I'm like, I am ordering that. Doesn't matter what it costs. I wanted to get it. So it is a special pour to me. There's a lot of memories associated with this whiskey, and good times with good people. So it's a
you
fun
must
one.
have had a different menu than me.
No, Daryl, I think you were you weren't the whiskey Sith yet.
I was actually the driver that night, and I wasn't even looking at the beverage menu.
Oh, that could be it. But you were more like what's the Padawan version of Sith? The Apprentice?
I was a youngling.
Yeah,
a youngling, yes.
So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and I like that you said that, because heading into these top 3 picks of 2020, I think a lot of them are going to be story based and have a meaning behind them, because you've tried a ton of great stuff. And me looking back through my notes, you poured a lot of really, really good whiskeys for us, Ian. And I had no idea what I was drinking at the time. So I don't know. I feel bad almost letting you know whether or not you wasted it on us. And I hope it wasn't wasted, because what you poured for us has cultured like a great love for whiskey. So thank you for those pours. But like, man, there was a lot of good stuff in there.
Absolutely. And part of that has grown that group from, I think we started with 6 or 7 guys on a Zoom call. And now we've got, I think, 16 attending the next one.
16. Wow. I will say our tagline is share good whiskey. And I fully believe that. If you have some good whiskey, crack the top, open it up, pour it for your friends. Not only will you have a good story, but it also creates a bond with your friends. Like one of my one of my top three. We'll talk about that a little bit, and it's super special to me. So, yeah, well, actually all of my top three kind of reference that, but it's all about the community and the group you create because of something that you enjoy together. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. So Dave, Daryl, and anybody listening, if I have something you're interested in, send me a message. You know, we talked about comments earlier. Please, whether it be Instagram or YouTube, send us some messages. Let's communicate. Let's get this community growing even bigger. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And don't
a
forget
lot of
to
great
like and
people in it.
subscribe.
Smash those buttons, right, everybody?
All right, so we're doing our top three whiskeys of 2020, and I think Dave's pretty excited to start it off. So let's go with Dave.
All right, so I'm gonna go with number one, my top pick. One, not my top pick, but one of my
Wait.
top.
Going,
Is this the
you're
top
going number
pick?
one first?
No,
You gotta go
not number one.
three
Not
to
number
one.
We're going
3 to 1.
So
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
one of my top three picks here for 2020 is going to be the Lot 40 12 year. So we had that in one of our earlier episodes, and I really wanted it to be in one of my top 2020 whiskeys, and I was like, it's just too late. But then I went through my notes of what we had in those tastings, and Lot 40 12 year was in one of the tastings, and I was like, yes, count it, because
nice.
Even 2021 I started to fall in love with that Lot 40 world and that community, and just tasting what we had through that was incredible. But then linking it back to those tastings, those original tastings that we did, there was a ton of them in there. There was Weller, Blanton's, there was a Stag Junior, I believe, in there in those tastings. And I'm going to say that the Lot 40 stuck out because in my notes for those tastings that we did, I had like stars, I had like a lot more description to the whiskey that I was drinking then, and it just like launched into this journey for me. So I was amazed that I had it in one of those previous tastings and didn't even realize that I necessarily had it. But Lot 40 12 year,
Man,
boom! Awesome. It's such a good whiskey.
I totally forgot I poured you that. But the funny thing is I tried to manipulate you with that pour. Do you remember what I did?
No.
Oh, so it used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the samples.
Yes, that's
but
right.
That one I did like 1 in Japanese writing. I did 2 as a 2. I did 3 as an exclamation mark, and I did 4 as a smiley face. Forget what I think 5 was just 5. But I was like smiley face because I'm like, let's get them thinking about this one already before they even pour it. I was like, how could I manipulate the situation or influence you into loving this whiskey that I love so much as well? But it's kind of come for full circle. If you look at our last episode, or one of our last episodes anyway, we did the Lot 40 cast strengths, and we I think you picked the 12 as well, didn't you, Dave?
I did, yeah.
That's good. I'm glad. So what a cool number 3.
Yeah,
that's coming in hot with a number 3.
Yeah, came in with a good pick on that one, and a year later you're still loving it.
Exactly.
That just means how it's an impressive whiskey.
It's a phenomenal whiskey.
That's out of production.
Yeah.
All right, Daryl.
Who's up next?
Let's go with Daryl.
All
right. So my number 3 is Buffalo Trace.
Really?
Mine are all story-based picks.
Okay.
So Buffalo Trace for me it's one of those whiskeys that I can hand to somebody, and it was a toss-up on Buffalo Trace, Basil Hayden's, and Woodford Reserve Distillers Select, as those are 3 whiskeys when somebody's like, I don't drink whiskey, I don't drink bourbon. Here, try this. Take your time with this and let me know what you think. And it's converted so many people into, I love whiskey, or I think I could enjoy this over time. And that's why it's become probably my top 3 pick. It's just all those memories of people that now are part of our blind tastings and our whiskey nights, and and enjoying whiskey with us. And there's a lot of good memories around that and introducing people to whiskey.
Yeah, I love that Buffalo Trace. I just killed a bottle of it not too long ago, and to be honest, I still have the empty bottle sitting with the other ones because I don't want to throw it out yet. I
And you
love the
you found
bottle.
you posted that bottle that it was empty, and you just tossed up on your Instagram that you've never posted whiskey on before. And hey, just finished this bottle. Recommendations for the next one, and the feedback you got was just incredible.
Yeah, and there was a lot of
That's
people saying how much they liked that Buffalo Trace, and people sending me pictures of their cabinets, and almost every cabinet has one of those bottles of Buffalo Trace. I feel like it's a good whiskey, a good bourbon that can sit on anybody's shelf. It's a great, easy drink. It's got some complexity to it that you can really go through. And like you said, for a beginner to be able to start pick those flavors, it's not going to hit you too hard, but there's so much to it. So I like that pick, Daryl. Good job.
Yeah, fantastic whiskey. I will also say fantastic whiskey for the price. In Ontario, it's $38, $40. Like it's my staple. I go through a bottle of Buffalo Trace way too quick. It's that and Wild Turkey 101 are my like daily drinkers, if you want to call them that. Hopefully I'm not drinking daily. But you know, if I am, I'm reaching for something like that as the go-to pour. What a great whiskey. My number 3 then. So we got Dave with the Lot 40 12 year. We got Daryl with Buffalo Trace. My number 3 is going to have to be Boomtown 1. Boomtown 1 is a Knob Creek single barrel pick from the Wamigo Whiskey Syndicate. I didn't get to own a bottle of this. This was probably 3 years old, maybe older than that. My buddy Corey Reeves, who is a podcaster and just a good whiskey buddy that I know. I met in Nashville. Really great story with him. One of my closest friends, and we've met once for a weekend, and everything else has been virtual. But through whiskey, we got really close. Been really fun. He does this little challenge that I do where we send some whiskey samples all over and try and beat each other with the bottles we pour. And he poured this for us, and the oak on it was just incredible. It was a 15-year-old 120 proof Knob Creek store pick, essentially.
Wow.
And it was incredible. Not only that, it was one of my closest whiskey friends got to pick the bottle. Was like his hands were all over it. You know, it was just a special pour. That won the whiskey challenge of that night. It blew everybody out of the water for that. Super special pour and super special people that I get to do it with. So it was Corey Reeves. So that's a Drink It Neat or Wamigo Whiskey Syndicate on Instagram. It was SW Bourbon, which is Ty Gallenbeck, which is a magician that I know in Colorado. It was The World in My Glass, which is Jason from Utah, and his wife Natalie. And Natalie has the best nose I've ever met in whiskey. So if you can nose something, like we talked about earlier on one of our episodes about like smelling different flowers and different stuff, and this woman is incredible. She can just pick out notes because of her experiences in life and what she's been through, and you know, whether it be cooking or gardening or whatnot. So it was really cool with that group of people that we got to be together with, trying that whiskey. So that was number 3. I've got to try some incredible whiskey, and a Knob Creek pick made that list, which is kind of special. Because Knob Creek you can buy at the store anywhere, but when it can be a special bottle, as all of our third ones are, whether it be Lot 40 12 year or Buffalo Trace, doesn't matter what the bottle is, it's more of that story and the relationship you build with it, right? So that'd be my number 3. So let's now jump to what we're drinking. We're gonna do what we're drinking for each round, and Dave, you're gonna go last because you can't reveal yours till the end.
Can't.
Daryl though has some Peat Monster.
Some peat monster.
What are you getting out of it? What does it taste like?
Deliciousness. It is. I actually poured this for this episode because normally on a Saturday, which is the day we record, I've had a campfire or a bonfire. We're outside most of the day. It's cold this time of year. Obviously, we're recording in January, and today we didn't have that campfire. I needed something peaty, needed that smoke, needed that memory of the fun we had outside, but we didn't have it with the fire today. So that's why I poured it. It's also one of my picks for tonight. Won't reveal which number, but
if it's number one, I just screwed it all over again.
It's just an enjoyable pour. It's a little too easy going down.
Very cool. All right, so number two, pick number two for your top 3 pours of 2020.
My second pick here is going to be very controversial, and I hope I don't offend the wild world of whiskey, but bear with me. There's a story. We are pulling out, it's an empty bottle I got for you here, Crown Royal Apple.
That's not even whiskey. It's 35%.
But hold on here. It might not be what you think it's going to be, but this whiskey we had a Christmas party, and with a work Christmas party. So with the year that we've had, we haven't been able to have many get-togethers with friends, with family. Christmas was a weird Christmas this year where you didn't really get that same big family Christmas dinner. At least in my household, we didn't. But something we did do as a company for our construction company that me and my brother-in-law run, we had a Christmas shop party with our guys. So we hung out in our shop. These are guys that we're working with every day, so we didn't need to take all of the COVID precautions into effect.
You're already in the bubble.
We're in each other's bubble, and we just let loose. So one of our employees, Mark, he's Remarkable Works on Instagram. The guy's hilarious, so check him out. He calls this his margarita. So he mixed Crown Royal Apple with ginger ale, and this bottle just flew around. It was gone before you knew it. We were laughing. We did a podcast episode for our company when we did it. We were playing ping pong. We were like just enjoying. And it was probably one of my favorite nights of 2020. Just getting to let loose with the guys, have a great time. And I will always remember that time by Crown Royal Apple.
That's hilarious.
That is awesome.
We just got like deplatformed from any whiskey show ever.
I'm sorry. So as far as notes on this, there's a very strong apple note to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not what
couldn't pull anything else out of that one. Just
it's not what you're gonna think for a top 3 picks of 2020. But if you want to make some memories, grab yourself some Crown Royal Apple and some ginger ale and just let loose.
So what's the ratio?
The ratio? I don't know if they have.
Hold on, no, for the margarita.
The margarita. Oh, dude, I think at the beginning there's a ratio, but as it goes, that ratio just flies out the window.
Yeah. And again, even though it's a Crown Apple and yes, we might get balked at a little bit because of that. That said, that's the best story, right? It's so you had an experience with it, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's such a special thing.
Like literally,
if I'm walking, you're gonna pull every time you see that bottle sitting on a shelf.
Exactly.
Bring back. This was the way 2020 needed to end.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to look at. If I'm walking through the LCBO and I see that on a shelf, I might not buy it, but I will laugh my ass off when I see that bottle, and it will make me happy.
Yes, for sure.
My number 2 is what I'm actually drinking tonight. Get the shine off.
All right.
Glad it was number 2.
So it's kind of funny. I'm writing notes as we're going along here of who's picking what for their top ones. And my notes beside that goes back to our blind tasting of July 17th, 2020. Ian, you put together a lineup for this one. And that lineup had Blanton's Green Label, had Glenmorangie 12, Port Cask Finish. That's probably not the actual official name. This is just what I've written down. Pikesville Straight Rye Whiskey.
Pikesville.
Avalor Abunad. I'm terrible at pronouncing. I'm Scottish and I can't pronounce names. And the finishing one was Compass Box. And I just remember receiving the blind tasting kit and looking at that being like, what has he poured that looks like Welch's grape juice? Probably the best description I've heard, which you said tonight. And I was not looking forward to it at all. I expected a very weak whiskey to end on. I mean, Pikesville rye was in there. That's a solid rye whiskey.
Solid pour.
And it's probably the Scotch that got me back into really enjoying a peated Scotch. I've always liked peated Scotches, but the breakdown with that group and what people were tasting in that group, what was coming out on palates and noses really got me to enjoy what's in a peated whiskey beyond that peated smoky flavor that's there. And
that dumpster fire smell, right?
The 2020 dumpster fire smell is all over this bottle. The moment you pop that cork, it comes out. And being a blended malt Scotch whiskey, it was just something different that I really enjoyed, and it stuck with me even to this day. It's one of those bottles I savor and I enjoy, but I'm taking my time with it because I get something new out of it every time I taste it. So
nice.
That's super cool because Daryl did not like peat. Like he would tolerate it, but he was not a peat guy. And then I'm like, man, what can I pour that Daryl won't be pissed that that's the fifth sample? Like that. So this is what's going on in building these tastes, and I loved it. It was a challenge for me, and I'm like, I think I had Ardbeg 10, which I find is ashy and just really tough. And I had the Peat Monster, and I tried them both, and I'm like, oh, I get a lot of sweetness on the Peat Monster. It's this like vanilla with peat, so it's not just this like ashy, smoky, dark, hard, like. You think of Scotland, that island, it's battle torn, beaten down from the winds off the sea and all that stuff. Like it's not that like harsh whiskey. It's this sweet. I think Caol Ila is a big factor in that whiskey. And it's nice and refreshing almost with the peat and the campfire and all that fun stuff that you can relate to. And I was like, well, let's give this a go. I remember a lot of those guys in the group going, what the heck is this light? Because it looks like it's very light.
I'm about to do my second pour on it, so
yeah,
it's one of those nights. But no, like it's funny because you spent that time to think what peated whiskey would I enjoy, and the only thing you had to go on that point before is our many discussions on golf courses and sitting around fires, and just all you ever got out of me was there's something about peat whiskey that I don't particularly enjoy. And somehow you nailed something that I would enjoy. And then the next whiskey tasting you followed up with Lagavulin 16 and caused me to add that bottle to the collection. So he's in my head, folks, and I don't know how to get him out.
Well, it's not me in your head. It's good whiskey. I will say that because
it's in my head.
Yeah, because if you haven't tried Peat Monster, which is Compass Box, which is one of the best blenders in the world, I think, or Lagavulin 16, which is a Nick Offerman, as you can see, sit by the fire and drink with him for what 16 hours straight if you want to put it on loop.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's great. I love so my palate personally is bourbon and then strong peated scotch because I like the big bold flavors. But
Mm.
Daryl was in more of a lighter, easier and more enjoyable, not as contrasting flavors point in his life. And I was like, man, how do I just get him to like understand this? And it was really fun that transition, and it clicked. I think for you to how it's not just junk, it's an art almost of that peat. So really cool. My second one is going to be Four Roses Al Young. Um, and that might fall to deaf ears for you too. I don't know if that means anything to either of you guys.
I know Four Roses. I don't know who Mr. Al Young is.
Yeah, Mr. Al Young was, I believe, the blender of Four Roses for years. He worked at Four Roses. I'm not sure his official role.
Okay.
I'm not sure too much about this bottle though. I do know that it was highly sought after 3 or 4 years ago. And while I was at Whiskey Weekend, as you can see that poster there, Bob Little, one of the guys that was attending that weekend, and I shared a room with them, while we were doing a special tasting, brought this bottle out and said, pour this first. Now, this is an expensive bottle. Like on secondary, you can't buy it off on shelves anymore. And on secondary, it's up there. Like Canadian, it would probably be $500 Canadian for the bottle of bourbon, maybe more. I don't know. I don't deal with secondary too much, but it's going to be a pricey bottle. Um, so Bob Little, the story about him, he had a son in 2020, January 2020, I believe. George. George was born with a lot of complications. Really heart wrenching story. Um, yeah, and the whiskey community kind of rallied around and helped Bob and George get things and get places and get funds to do surgeries and this and that, and really blew me away with the amount of love and care that the whiskey community that I'm a part of, and not just one but multiple communities, banded around this guy and poured love and compassion and funds and everything
Wow.
towards this guy. um so Bob has a expansive collection that he's been curating for years and loves to share it. So he brought this Al Young whiskey, poured it for us, and just poured it his heart about the year, about how he's doing and everything. And that was, if it, we were all crying, like we're at
Mm.
a whiskey tasting, and we're supposed to be manly men and all this stuff, and this dude just brought us to tears and just wanted to give him a hug, but yet he shared such a special whiskey. And it just meant the world to me. And above that, it's a super special pour. And above that, it's the super special memory that I'll
That's
never
incredible.
forget. So
Wow.
the second one is just that. It's that community building, people, and then the community not taking it for granted and saying, I love you guys, here's the best I have, try it. And it's
Mm.
so special to get like the reciprocating factor. It's like, you did this for me, like, here, like I'm gonna throw everything I can so that you would get to enjoy it as well. And it was such a special pour for me. So
That's
um
incredible.
yeah, as you guys go through the whiskey thing, you're gonna notice bottles, especially on Facebook groups and stuff. You're like, oh, that's a special one. And when you get to try one of those, just because of somebody like that brought it to toast with us, yeah, that melted my heart and just made me really respect the people and the community. And that's Bob Little. So he's in Georgia. He has a podcast called BS and Bourbon. That's he is doing really well in the States and whatnot. So if you want to reach out and check that out, they'd love to hear from you. They have a lot of fun on it, but uh stellar guy. Like I could not I could, and George, keep praying for him. He's pulling through. You know, you get updates every once in a while and hear some fantastic things about him. So, you know, if you send some wishes, prayers, whatever it is, but you know, there's some good people that need some help, and there's good people that are helping people, and that's what I'm really stoked to see through all this. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
it's
that. I love
absolutely
that.
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that story, and I love like how you're talking about a bunch of grown men drinking whiskey and crying together, and something like that. Like I love because it's breaking down those stereotypes, and it's something that I try to strive my life after, breaking down those stereotypes. I hate that toxic masculinity that sticks around with so many people. Being somebody that's in the trades, it's so there where guys think they have to be this tough, burly, manly man, and just breaking down those stereotypes to letting people know that it's okay to feel, it's okay to cry, it's okay to
yeah,
hurt, and it's okay to be in rough spots in life and ask for help. So
Mhm.
seeing a community rally around like that is incredible. Who knew that drinks could bring people together in such an amazing way? Like that's incredible
yeah.
story, Ian.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's such a powerful community, and it's not all about drinking. I experienced a small tidbit of that. I think it was back in November. Was an online get together for Scotch Trooper, who's one of the probably first people I started to follow ever on Instagram in the Scotch whiskey community. He's battling cancer himself right now,
Hmm.
and how the community has rallied around him. They had a goal at that silent auction to get his GoFundMe account up to, I think it was $60,000, and I believe by the end of the night it was almost at $100,000. So just
Wow.
how willing the community is to give back and help fellow brothers and sisters that are in the community when there is a need, and it goes to a depth. These are people you haven't even met, and they're willing to help out in any way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just genuine
Yeah.
friendship that you don't always get from people you are talking to every day.
And I think that's a big reason why we wanted to start this and what we're doing, right? Because there are those communities out there, and we wanted to be able to give another outlet, whether it's to the junior whiskey drinkers out there or the veteran whiskey drinkers out there. We wanted to be able to create a community because we are three kind, caring, hearted people that want to be able to make an impact in this world. And if whiskey is a way that we can broaden our scope of people's lives that we can affect, then that's what we want to do with this. We want to grow it to a place where we can be able to bring in funds, to let funds fly out the doors, to be able to help more and more people out there. And I couldn't be happier to be sitting down with you two going through all this. So amazing. Love you, boys.
Hmm.
Strong friendships.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. And on that note, I'm drinking 1920, Old Forester
Right.
1920, because we'll save Dave for the final one. Because apparently, unless he's drinking Crown Apple right now,
He's got the cocktail going.
It's not gonna be what you want it to be.
no,
Straight up
no. It's
cocktail.
I'm just kidding. Um, this 1920 showed up Ontario for the first time that I've seen it about a year ago. I was able to grab a bottle, but my wife brought this back from California when she visited her sister. There's a little bit left in the bottle. We'll get to it on a Northern Proof review at some time, but I love it. It's a robust 115 proof whiskey, right in my wheelhouse. I like that 110 to 120 proof. It's got some age on it, bit of leather, bit of oak, you know, like some character, a little bit of dark fruit. If you get the chance to go at this whiskey, it's a special one. I think it was around $60 to $70 at the LCBO. If it comes back, buy a couple.
Yeah.
It's just so good. So yeah, Old Forester 1920, really recommend it. We're gonna do a full Northern Proof review at some point, but that's what I'm drinking right now.
Beautiful. Well, should I get into my final bottle then?
I think
Well,
we're on the top one
All
of
right.
2020, right?
Okay.
So,
Now
so is Dave? Is this special enough that you need to go last?
I don't think so. I don't want to
Okay.
spoil it for the community. This is special to me.
Oh,
But
that's
watching
that's
our
what
waiting.
matters.
That's what
We're
matters.
waiting for
Yeah.
this.
We've tried a ton of amazing whiskeys, and I feel bad because of what I said earlier, where like I got to try a lot of amazing whiskeys in these samplings, but I didn't really know what I was looking at and what I was tasting and what I was drinking. So I wanted to pick something for my last bottle that was something that was on my shelf, something that I would probably buy again, and something that had some meaning behind it. So I picked Bowmore 12 year.
Oh,
So
nice.
the reason I picked this is a Father's Day bottle. So my wife got it for me for Father's Day. This is after my wife's a big gift giving person, and she knew that I was starting to like whiskey, and she contacts Ian saying, Dave likes whiskey. Father's Day's coming up. I want to get him a bottle. What should I get him? And Ian suggested the Bowmore. And something that I found through the first tastings that we did is that I really enjoy a good smoky scotch, a nice peaty scotch that just can sit and linger, and I can get that campfire smoke on it, and it can just sit there for the full night and just reminisce about that. So this is a special bottle to me, and I've had a hard time finishing it. It's sat on my shelf for a long time going down now, but I've made a lot of memories with this whiskey throughout the year. Taking it up to the cottage when we went to the cottage for a week, sitting around the campfire while having it, playing games while having it, and sitting at home at night just after a long day of work. This was one of the only bottles I had on my shelf at the beginning of this year. I didn't have a collection at all. So this kind of was one of the first to my collection. So it's really, really special to me for that reason. And that's why I'm kind of having a hard time finishing it off. It's a nice, easy, smoky, peated whiskey. It's got great amber color to it. So you might not even think that it's a scotch coming out of the gate, but I love that. It's got good citrus honey notes to it. It's sweet but smoky. So I would even suggest this if you're just entering into peated whiskey. This is a great start because it's soft, but it's still there. The smokiness is on the nose, and you can sit with this glass for a long time, and it finishes strong. The smoky peat just sticks with you on that finish, and I've got a lot of lovely memories. So cheers to Bowmore 12.
I love that.
It's a great bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I've given that to many people.
Yeah, it's affordable, great,
Yes.
solid whiskey that I feel is right up there for people. Especially Dave, you're entering that whiskey journey that I reference a little bit. Um, I don't want I would never recommend a $300 bottle because you'd be like, oh, it's so prized, but you wouldn't be able to get flavor from it. It's like you would love that bottle for the price. But being a Bowmore 12, an attainable whiskey, you're able to then sit down and say, oh, I'll pour some of that. Let's take it somewhere and drink it. And it made that memories for you, which is super cool. And I love that you're afraid to empty it. That's me too. If I get to the bottom, it's like, do I really want to cash that thing? Because like I love this because of this. And a lot of my memories are virtual. Like I've talked about that a little bit too. Like I've made a virtual online community all over North America. But still, when I get to the bottle, some of those bottles, I'm like, I think I'm gonna let that sit a little longer.
Yeah.
So, but that's a really special one. I like that a lot.
I'm glad my collection has continued to grow so that I can leave that bottle there. I'm not always going back to it.
Well, you
And I
can
still got enough to make some more memories with it.
you can that the nice thing about that one is it's readily available, and you could keep the same bottle and dump more stuff in it and just fill it back up. It'd be perfect.
Nobody's gonna know, Dave.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know. They're gonna know. Nobody's gonna know.
Nobody's gonna know.
Now everybody knows.
Yeah. We know what you're up to.
All right, Daryl, you got your number one pick for us. I'm looking forward to it.
My number one pick is Avalor.
Really?
12 year. This bottle is I haven't drank a lot out of it, but it's really special to me because again, COVID sucked for 2020. My wonderful brother-in-law's wedding was canceled because of it.
Hmm.
When things started to open back up, we were able to host a barbecue for them and the parents and the wedding party, which just came under that. I think it was 20 or 30 cap at that moment, through all of this. And he shows up with this to the barbecue, and unbeknownst to myself or my wife, the barbecue suddenly turned into a what's my dad doing here and why is he so dressed up? The next thing we know, they're getting married on our side lawn.
Oh, wow.
So what went from a simple barbecue to remember the day that they should have been getting married became a wedding, the first wedding at our house. And there's just a lot of memories tied to this bottle from that day. And I really like the whiskey that's in it, but I want to make this one last a long time because it has such a meaning to me.
Mm.
Um, he buys me whiskeys almost every birthday, but this one's got a special significance from that day that we were able to take something that was a crappy situation, of a wedding being canceled and all their plans that they'd put together for 2 years, and at least give them a little bit of happiness, a little bit of love, on that day, and an enjoyable time. And it turned into a great evening.
Nice.
So
That's cool.
there's a lot of memories tied in that bottle, and it's going to be sitting on my shelf for quite some time.
Yeah, it's almost like an anniversary pour, right? Where like every time that day hits, you pour a little bit of that to remember it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. All right. So
Drum
Dave.
roll.
Oh, it's mine. That's right.
Yeah, I talked about mine. I talked
So
about
you have
my
to give
beautiful
we can
notes
just
on
go
yours.
right. We can
I
go
mean,
right off schedule.
if you
now
want
and
a
talk
second.
have you poured something else, Dave, before Ian gets to his final unveil?
I'm gonna feel
No,
like
no,
a
I'm just
pretentious douchebag when I say what I got to drink, but
no.
you guys are.
It,
I, I'm kidding. I'm kidding with that.
oh, this like shocked me right in the ear. Oh. But that's what I love about the three of us. We're three completely different people, but we relate with a lot of different things. We've all tried completely different whiskeys.
Mhm.
Some have had way more, some have had not as many, like Apple Crown. Hey. But I love the differences in what we're
whiskey.
picking. Like we've all picked different things, but yet it's amazing that we're all here together going through it all.
So my top whiskey of the year. I have an honorable mention that's
Okay.
going to be brought in, and it could be replaced with a top one for story, which we'll talk about after the fact. My top whiskey of the year, based on whiskey more than story, story is definitely huge with it, is going to be Jefferson's Presidential 18-year-old, bottled in 1991 from Stitzelweller. Stitzelweller at that point was doing the Pappy Van Winkle brand, weeded whiskey, just incredible. You can actually find it here if I can learn how to tag stuff on YouTube, because it was part of the 12 Days of Christmas that my buddies did, on YouTube. So my buddy Corey and Jason from Kansas and Utah, got us all to send a bottle in to Jason, and he rebottled them into 12 samples for each people, a 2-ounce sample per bottle per person from those bottles. And we went on live every night, recorded it and posted it on YouTube. The last night, a buddy of ours named Conway from Texas said, "I'm so stoked to be a part of this group. I've been saving this bottle for literally years, to open it with somebody special. I want to pour it with you guys." And this is all virtual. We've met each other maybe one time, like maybe one time the 12 of us. Um, and he's dropping this bottle will go for a couple grand on secondary, and he's like, no, 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 I want to share it with you guys. And we all got to toast to him that night and share this stellar bottle that was incredible. um so that was just that capped it off. It was like December 20 something when we were doing this, so the end of the year, a phenomenal whiskey. Like you can't get those. Like it would be insane to try and locate one of those now, and we were able to try that. Now all of those 12 whiskeys that we tried that everybody sent in were just phenomenal and special in some kind of way, but that one just kind of capped it all off, and it was really, really fun. So that would be my top whiskey of the year, with
That's a very special.
yeah, with a bunch of the like virtual whiskey community that I've grown to love. Like they're like brothers to me now. And that 12 days of Christmas text thread has like 180 messages in a half hour, and it's getting out of hand at times, but I'm stoked to be a part of that community, and it made me feel really special to share that with him. So that was the top whiskey of the year. The top story of the year has a little bit of a different tone to it. The top story of the year for me would be Weiser's Legacy. And Dave, you were a part of this.
Yes.
Weiser's Legacy. I've had this bottle for a couple of years. We're gonna review it soon with the Legacy blend on the podcast or YouTube channel. But my dear friend, one of our dear friends, one of my closest friends, lost his wife recently to cancer through 2020. Um, and a group of us rallied around and bought him a special bottle. It was a really cool bottle that we were able to get for him and give it to him. It was a Macallan Rare Cask, which is a fun bottle. It's got 2020 on there. But we couldn't figure out how to get it to him. It's 2020. So my wife wrapped it up all nice, looked like a regular gift. I handed it to him, and I handed him a 1 ounce sample of Wise's Legacy. I gave that sample to a bunch of the people all the people that chimed in and pitched in for the bottle. And we went on a Zoom call and we're like, hey, let's just like, I gave everybody a sample. Let's just hang out. And a bunch of us had done this whiskey tasting earlier. So we do the Zoom call and I'm like, hey, go grab that present we gave you. And he opens it up and it's this special bottle. And then beyond that, it was the legacy part of it. So I cracked my bottle of Weiser's Legacy because of the legacy his wife left. She was a brilliant person that loved people and loved community and loved everything. And I thought it was the perfect toast and pour to remember somebody like that by. Now we'll never do her justice. She was such a special person in the world.
Yeah.
But to crack a bottle that has the name Legacy on it and pour something that's that good, in my opinion, of Wiser Legacy to toast with that man was possibly the best whiskey moment of my life, because of friendship and community and what it meant. So whiskey wise, sure, that Stitzelweller Jefferson presidential was phenomenal, but in real life wise, that was just a super special moment that I think we were all in tears with. Yeah. So that was my honorable mention, would be that Weiser's Legacy. And Dr. John did a killer job putting that together and making that blend of whiskeys that tastes so well. So but
now
yeah.
I'm feeling like the jackass over here with Crown Royal Apple. No, but it's true. Like I love the stories and the different experiences that we've all had this year, and that legacy one was definitely something special to be able to have with everybody and just kind of go through that moment in time together. And I think whiskey is so good for that. I think friendship is even better for that, just to always be rallying around the people in your lives, because so many people put up a strong front and don't ask for help but need help. And our friend is even one of those people who he lost his wife in a terrible way, and he's also a very strong person who's always there to help other people, and he does put up that brave front in front of people. So to be able to kind of sit down with him and really ask him those questions every now and then, check in on him, it's just something that I always encourage everybody to do. A simple text message can go a long way for somebody who's going through a hard time that you might not even know is going through a hard time.
Especially if they've been on your mind for a couple of days, or they're just, for some reason, they keep coming up in conversation or something. Just shoot them that text. Hey, how's it going? There's a reason they keep coming up in those messages on your mind. And knowing the two individuals you're talking about, they're amazing people. She lit up a room. Absolutely amazing person. And yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to do that event for them.
And that's it. I think we've put together quite a fun list in this top 2020. You've got some attainable bottles that you can get, some bottles that don't even exist anymore. And that's what whiskey's about. We want it to be able to have fun with it. We gave you some suggestions of things to try, some things to look forward to. And I think one thing that's important is to enjoy those memories when they come. To be able to just really reflect on them and how special they can be. The nosing we joked about earlier, how much smell can make you remember a story, a situation, a place where you were. So you think of nosing whiskey, you're picking out notes, but you're making a memory. So as you go through 2021, when you're drinking a whiskey, drink it in a different way. Drink it with intention and create memories with friends.
I love that, Dave. Great stuff.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Just hit us up at Northern Proof. And yeah, hit us up, and if you need to send us a direct message, it doesn't need to be in public comments. We are monitoring and listening to that. And as we say, share good whiskey and let the proof do the talking.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Everyone.